Welcome back, everybody, to Real Talk
From the kitchen table.
with Jon and Lindsey Burt. Well, we hope everyone's been doing good.
Yeah,
You got the giggles again today.
sometimes it just happens. It's fine.
Well, Lindsey's giggling today. Hope everybody's having a great day, doing good today. I know, again, we've kind of taken some time off, just scheduling and everything. Again, we are not at our own kitchen table.
Nope.
We're at somebody else's kitchen table today. So I think that'll be all right.
Oh, yeah. At least we have a kitchen table this time and not a hotel couch.
That's exactly right. So it's more of what we do, what we talk about, what we are.
In my element with the table, you know.
Yeah, I do. I feel like I got somewhere to put my hands today. It
Yeah.
kind of makes me feel a little bit more comfortable. Yeah. But today, something really special happened. We are at church up here in Blountville, Tennessee, right around the Bristol, Tennessee, Bristol, Virginia area. And I had a dad come up to me this morning and said, "Brother Jon, I just want to tell you how much my family appreciates you and Miss Lindsey." He said, "I was in the house the other day, and I kept hearing my son play this video over and over and over again, and people were talking." He said, "Son, what are you watching?"
What are you watching?
He said, "I'm watching Jon and Lindsey Burt with Real Talk from the kitchen table." He said, "What is that?" He said, "You know, Brother Jon and Miss Lindsey," and he just began to tell his dad about it and just how special it was and how much help he was getting from it. So, Max, we want to give you a shout out today and let you
awesome.
know we appreciate you, buddy, and we're glad you've been tuning in and watching. And while we're on here, we failed to say this a lot. Make sure you subscribe to this, share it. Our burden is just to be an encouragement and a help. Just people dealing with everyday struggles in the Christian life. And, that's what our burden and our heart is. So to finally continue / wrap up today our series on fear.
Yes, third episode on fear.
The third and final one. We have finally made it through our first series. Yeah. I'd like to say successfully. Would you say so? I'd say so. I thought so. So today what we're going to be talking about is the fear of what others think of us. And this is, to me, out of all the ones we've covered, this is a big one. This is a huge one.
And if there's anybody that says that they've never dealt with this, I don't agree with that. I think everyone listening has probably dealt with it.
Well, I mean, you always got those people that say, "Well, I don't care what other people think about me." I think that's true.
We've all probably said that.
But I think that's always untrue to a degree.
Well, and I'll tell you, I feel like I've said that before, but then I also think that we should care what people think about us and our testimonies. And I actually had that talk with my mom when I was younger, and we do want people to think highly of us and who we are and how we act and how we portray ourselves. But then also it can be a dangerous area when you're fearful of it.
There has got to be a balance. I mean, I don't know of one person that they don't want to be a credible person. They want to be a person that you talk good about them. Right. I think everybody wants that. I mean, I think that's a desire in all of us, and I think we should, live the best, do the best we can, especially for Christ. But I think there's a certain line where you're trying to be good and to, portray a good person than just letting that dominate your life about what others think about you.
Right, and it can be fearful, but then I feel like that goes back into kind of what we've talked about before, where there's judgment, there's comparison, because you're not living to be what you want to be. You're just trying to not have someone judging you or saying something about you because it's fearful, because you want, I guess in reality what it is that we want to please and we want people to like us and we want that acceptance, but we don't know how they're going to react to that.
Well, a lot of times I find that people, there's always something about ourselves that we just don't like about ourselves. Right. And we would love to change about ourselves. And you see it so many times, and I think we've all been guilty of, we try to be someone or something we're not. What works for one person, it's probably not going to work for you, because they were created one way and you were created how God wanted you to be created. So don't feel like you have to duplicate somebody else. One of the greatest statements I ever heard, one of the greatest quotes I ever heard was, "You will never be as good as the copy of somebody of what the original you can be.
Right. So the copy's never as good as the original.
Exactly.
Right. And that's what, I think it's just one of those things where if you're living how you're supposed to, and you're living how you think Christ wants you to, and doing exactly what you should do, and being in the center of His will, then you can't have fear about what other people think, because at that point, I think that is when it doesn't matter what they think, as long as you know you're doing right, living right.
Well, the thing about it is, who are we trying to impress? Are we trying to impress others, or are we truly trying to impress Christ and really seek what He thinks? I'll be the first one. I want people to like me. You want people to like you. But when we're worried about what another human thinks about us rather than what the Lord thinks about us, that's a problem.
And I think that's a great thought, honestly, because think about somebody that you knew you had fear of what they thought about you. And I think about that, and then I think about the times that I worried about that person and the thoughts that they had about me and how fearful I was of that. Have I ever thought how God was, rating me, or how He felt like I was living, or how He felt like I was acting? I think many times there's not even a comparison, which is bad on my part to say, but I hate to say that there have been times where it doesn't even compare. Like, I have not questioned what He thought versus someone else.
Well, it's unnecessary pressure is what it is. You're putting all that pressure on yourself for a person or a group of people to fall in love with you and for them to like you. And all that is we think we're doing such a good job when really it's just the devil undermining in what God's created. There's nothing wrong, I don't think, with, trying to improve things about yourself, personality. I don't want to be around anybody that's got a bad attitude. Right. If you got a bad attitude all the time, people would like you more if you had a good attitude. But when you're going and changing the total complexity about yourself and every little thing about you, that's robbing God of what He's created.
Right. And I don't think there's anything wrong with noticing something or trying to figure out how to better
There's nothing wrong with others. Improvement.
Yes, absolutely not. There's nothing wrong with that. However, you need to make sure you know why you're doing it.
Exactly.
And who you're doing it for. Because if you're doing it to please others and not the Lord, then that does need to be kind of a, red sign. But then also, you have to figure out why you're doing it and who you're doing it for.
Well, there's a difference in improving yourself and then totally compromising what you are and who you are. And let me just go a step further than this. There may be a young person out there listening to this, watching this today. I don't know why this kind of came to my heart and mind. You do not have to totally compromise on what you believe and your stand with Christ to improve somebody else because you're scared they won't like you. I don't care who you are, what you are. That is never right, and that is never okay to do.
Yeah. You don't want to have to impress other people by changing yourself. Because if they don't accept you for who you are, then, they don't deserve to be around you. That's kind of how we've always said things. And I know that sounds kind of harsh, and I feel like, but I told you before, we just kind of are that way with ourselves.
It's real talk.
That's kind of how we talk to ourselves. But if we know where we're supposed to be and we're doing what we should be doing, and we are where we feel like the Lord has us, then if you don't accept us, but also let me go back before I say that. You're not going to be for everybody.
Exactly.
Everyone's not going to want to be your best friend. Everyone's not going to want to be in a relationship with you. I think that would be a little crazy if the whole world wanted to be
yeah.
everybody
when Jesus was on the earth, everybody wasn't for Him. Everybody wasn't for, Paul. But you still look, the Lord Jesus Christ, He died on the cross for our sins.
Right.
Because a few Pharisees and a few people didn't care for Him, that didn't stop Him.
And we really went through this in earlier stages of our ministry where we had to realize, these are things we talk through that you're not going to be for everybody.
Right.
But you can still be who you are.
Exactly.
And be kind and be open to things. But you don't have to feel like that they have to embrace you. They need to accept you, but they may not embrace you, I guess. Does that make sense? So once you get past that step, if you are where you need to be and they don't accept you and you have that fear still, then you don't need them.
No.
They don't deserve, I always say they don't deserve you.
Exactly.
At that point, they're making you feel a certain way, and you need to realize your worth and how special you are and how much the Lord believes in you and sees in you. And so, they don't deserve you, or you deserve better.
Right.
Not that that's like degrading anyone, but maybe there's just somebody, if it's a relationship, there's somebody else for them that, meshes better with them, or friendships and things like that. It's just you're not right where you need to be. So I definitely think that that's a thing we've all dealt with.
Well, and I think God's got, and I say, say this kind of, I guess, in an odd way, but God's got a tribe for everybody.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? God's got people that you are going to connect with, and that you are going to be able to have that transparency. One of the biggest things I remember when we first got started in the ministry was like, Lord, where's this going? Who are we? Who's going to be our friends, I guess, in this thing. And it's awesome to think that we have friends all over this country. People, listen to this, and places I go and preach, and Lindsey sings. And I'll be honest, I wouldn't trade them for $1 million in the world, because you want to know why. This is how you know it's a God thing. On the days when you're low and everything's hard, you can do one or two things. You can even think of those people and think, how God's used them to bless your life, and how much it helps you. And let me just say this: don't take who God's given you for granted, because we'll do that in trying to chase another relationship, and we'll forget people back here. But also, going to that second thing is to have somebody to talk to, somebody that really cares about you,
right.
Somebody that really loves you. This might sound kind of harsh. I don't want to waste my time with anybody that doesn't care about me.
Right.
If it is what it is, just like Lindsey said, you're not for everybody. I'm not for everybody. I think, Lindsey, you're probably for everybody.
And I think this is a hard conversation, because it does feel like it sounds harsh, but it's just the reality of it. Like, really think about a world, if we lived in a world where all these, women wanted to be with these men and have a relationship, or everybody wanted to be friends with everybody, that would be crazy.
Right.
And we all have different personalities, and so I feel a little better when I when I'm talking through saying that, because I feel like this is harsh, but also thinking about the fear of what others think and how to do this, and like Jon said, needing to talk to people. You have to process it however is best for you, and you do need those people to talk to, because I'll tell you, we even process this differently. So just to kind of talk about how I process fear of what others think of me, I'm an overcompensator. So I feel like I have to overly, Jon's smiling because he knows, I feel like I have to overly do it, or I have to entertain, or I have to talk it through, or I feel like my personality has to be big to overcompensate, so that like people want to, like, I want them to like me. And we all want that. We all want acceptance. We want them. And so, but I have realized there have been times, and this is super transparent, didn't realize I was going here, but I've had a few times in my life where I told Jon, where, I kind of wish I wasn't like I am. And we had serious talks about that, where I just had a few little meltdowns in life before, where I wished I wasn't the type AAA personality, or this, outgoing or loud or too talkative because I talk too much. Like, there was things that I really struggled with for a period of time where I was like, I wish I wasn't like this. Now, like we said, there's nothing wrong with making improvements and realizing where, for me, I needed to realize there were places where I need to scale back. Still working on that. Probably will work on that my entire life. But I'm at the point now where I don't as much feel like I fear what other people think, because I realize I'm doing what God has me to do. And there's a reason why I am like I am. And God has me this way, for Jon and for our ministry. And so he's laughing, and it's making me distracted. Now I have a fear of what he's thinking and what you're thinking about me. But, I guess that's a good point. As I'm sharing this with you, because I'm being transparent, I guess our whole podcast really, especially today, it's like in my head, I'm sharing this with you, and I want to be open about it. But I'm sitting here, and he's smiling, and I'm like, is he panicking that I'm sharing this? Or I'm thinking, but you know what I'm saying? But that's going through my head, and then I think about, what are these listeners going to think when I'm talking about this? And so there's that fear, but also I will say, I think there's the times too where Satan will try and manifest himself to mess with you that way.
Well, I'm the exact opposite, where Lindsey, and the reason I smile is because I think it's cute. It is, don't get me wrong thinking, well, he's so hard on his wife, he thinks no. I think it's the most precious thing, because I know Lindsey. And one thing I know about Lindsey is I know her heart. And I know her heart of what she tries to do, and what her heart puts out to try to love on people and try to make people around her feel special. and that does my heart good. She thinks that's oh man, I just whatever. Where I think it's I wish I could be more like her in some ways because I'm very much more people that really know me. I'm very much more laid back. I'm more of a reserved, which probably isn't great all the time. I'm more of a listener rather than a talker. When I feel like when I'm sitting in a group of people or out with somebody, I'm like, well, I just really need to. I need to talk. I need to say something. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Where Lindsay has the words, I have the loss for words. And
so it's complete opposite.
And we've ridden down the road a lot of times, and I've asked Lindsay, what do I need to do? Because I just don't. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to do the wrong thing. And the bottom line is, you have got to learn just to be yourself. I've learned people will love you and like you the most when you show genuine care for that other person, when you take time to listen to them and to their issues, and just try to love. That's what Christ commands us to do. He commands us to love one another. And why do we love Christ so much? The Bible plainly says it, because He first loved us. So whichever side of the spectrum you're on, whether you're like me and you're a little bit more reserved, or you're like Lindsay, you just want to make everybody feel special and make sure everybody's having a good time. Right. All you have to do either way, just make everybody feel loved and special, because you think of all the people that you've come across in your life that they've shown you that kindness. They've shown you, how special you are. I can sit here and name off 5 or 6 preachers, since I started preaching, since God called me to preach when I was 12. I was saved when I was 12. And I can just think through my whole life, even, just people of God that's made me feel special and has loved on me. And you know what, Lindsay? Now that I sit here and I think about that, and I think that's the key to this whole podcast, is that's the people I really love the most.
Right.
And that's the encouragement I really get from people that's helped us at our lowest times, people that's been there, not to try to get anything from us, which we ain't really got anything to give, but they just wanted to let us know, we love you, we think you're special, we think God's really going to do something with you. And I'm going to tell you, even just sitting here right now, I just go back and think over in my mind just how much that's done for me and grown me as a person.
Right. And I know, the topic was fear of...
Sorry, I know I was a little...
No, that's good. There. I know the topic was, fear of what others think, but I think this is kind of taking us into a topic of just honestly being who God wants you to be. Exactly. Like what Jon was saying, just really being who He made you into. And honestly, I pray that we have talked about this and prayed about this, and I pray that maybe the Lord will show you this, that, we live this life to honor Him, but also just to help others and to serve them. So to make them feel special, to make them feel appreciated, to make them feel their worth. Because through Him, we are worthy. And, that's a hard thing to comprehend, that He loves us that much. Yep. But if He can love us that much, especially on our worst days and the times where we're fearful of how we've acted or how we've done or who we are, if He still loves us, then I want to love like that. I want to be that for someone else. And so, maybe today, kind of as we wrap up, that challenge is, I feel like there's a few challenges we could give, but the first one, just, really being who God wants you to be, but also just being that person for someone else. So find that person in your mind that has made you feel like Jon was talking about. And, try and pray and ask the Lord that maybe you can become that person, or you can be that way towards someone else, because there's going to be people that you can reach and love on and make feel certain ways that I'll never be able to. Exactly. And the Lord's made us for certain people and for certain situations and certain circumstances. And so, I encourage you that today.
And let me just say this. Don't beat yourself up. Yeah. So many times we beat ourselves up when we say something wrong, do something. Learn to give yourself some grace. Right. And if you have a genuine heart where you're trying to love people, you're trying to love the Lord, serve others, serve God, that's all you can do. And roll with the ones that do accept you, and pray for the ones that don't. And pray that God will put somebody in their lives to help them. Like we said, you're not for everybody, we're not for everybody, but there is everybody for somebody.
That's good. And that's what I think one more thing that I wanted to challenge was just maybe also thinking back to that first point that we kind of talked about of what God thinks of you. So maybe if you're having a hard time and you're in that fearful spot, try and figure out and maybe pray and ask the Lord what He thinks about you and how you act and, who you are as a person and maybe some things you might need to change or not change and that you're doing a great job on. And it's kind of like, I guess, grading yourself and letting Him kind of do an inspection and kind of see how you're, how you're doing. And it all just rolls back into the verse that we used in the first series and the first part of the series. And it's my favorite, Psalms 56:3. What times I'm afraid, I'll trust in Thee. And the Lord's here for that. And we're here. I know that a lot of you don't know us other than maybe even through this podcast or through social media. But I encourage you that if there's anything we can help you about or talk you through or just be there for you, you know that I'm an overcompensator and John's kind of like that.
I'll listen to you. I promise.
Whichever one of us, I'll try and listen, I promise. But whichever one of us like that might be a help to you, if there's any way that we can be a help, we would love to. And that's kind of what the Lord's put on our heart for this series and just for this time in our lives, that when you are fearful, find somebody that can help you.
Trust in the Lord. Well, Lindsay, we nailed our first series, I think.
I don't know how loud that was in the mic.
Well, some of y'all probably eardrums may just busted, but we apologize for that. But it's been good. Today has been real talk
from the kitchen table.
We love you guys.
We love you guys. Have a good one.